Aquaproof 7-in-1, high-performing waterproofing paint, Nippon Paint, the coatings expert.
What is happening in the tea estates is not union issues. What's happening in the tea estates is exploitation of labor. That is the reality which none of us are willing to face.
Minister of Water Supply and Estate Infrastructure Development, Jeevan Thondaman, affirmed that the government is ready to face any situation if the estate companies take court action against the government's decision to increase the wages of the estate workers' community. Previously, plantation companies claimed an inability to augment the basic salary of workers even by a single rupee. However, following the government's declaration of a daily wage of 1,700 rupees, Minister Thondaman disclosed that the companies proposed a 200 rupees increase in the basic salary for estate workers. He emphasized that the companies have the ability to increase the wages of estate workers. Minister Thondaman made these statements while addressing a press briefing held at the President Media Center on Monday.
The President had announced on the 1st of May at our stage in Kotagala that he would be providing a 1,700 rupee wage, and 30th of April the Gazette was issued. So there is a 15-day objection period, which is standard government procedure. And on the 15th, around noon if I'm not mistaken, that the final Gazette will be issued on 1,700 rupees if the companies do not provide us with a feasible proposal. The companies earlier had mentioned that they cannot increase the basic, due to some legal barrier. But the reality of the matter is, the Attorney General has also given a very clear-cut directive to the Labour Ministry that there is no legal barrier in increasing the wages. Now, I wish I could comment on this more, but since the court case is also ongoing and there's another 15-day period, I will refrain from commenting on certain aspects. But what we are suggesting is, right now the government has gazetted basic at 1,350. Plus 350 as an incentive based on productivity and attendance, which is also sure to increase the declining labor force. So if the companies do not come up with a proposal by 15th, which is another day, where the basic starts from 1,350 and the 350 rupees can be incentivized in whatever way that may be fit between the unions and the companies. But however, I would like to also bring something to light here. When the 1,000 rupee Gazette was issued, and this is something I want the English media to carry out because this is something that has not come to light. One reality that everybody must accept is that it is easy to demonize the unions in the tea estates simply because we don't like the word union. But the reality of the matter is, what is happening in the tea estates is not union issues. What's happening in the tea estates is exploitation of labor. That is the reality which none of us are willing to face. Because we all must understand something. People who don't know the estate sector have constantly questioned how many houses have we built. You see, we have to be very clear with the stats and figures. From 1972, 66,000 houses have been built through the government of Sri Lanka. And I'm not just saying one particular government, whichever governments have come from 1972, they've built. Apart from that, the Indian government was kind enough to provide us with 14,000 houses, which is, work has started. And we are looking to complete it before September, hopefully. And similarly, no matter how many houses we build, there is no point if we can't offer a permanent solution. There is no point in giving a house to somebody if you do not give them the economic strength to run that house. So that is our argument. So realistically speaking, when I had taken over as State Minister of Estate Housing in 2020, the cost of building one house was roughly about 950,000 rupees. And then when I took over as Cabinet Minister of Water Supply and Estate Housing in 2023, the cost of building that very same house was 3.2 million. So because there were questions raised on why we could not expedite the Indian houses earlier. And that's because if the housing program was under the Sri Lankan government, we'd be able to get it done. But when another government is giving us a grant, they have to go through their procedures to get us consent and increase the price of cost per unit. So basically that took a while, but we were able to start it. It took us nearly 2 years, but we were able to start it. But when the price of a house is 3.2 million rupees, I just want all of you to do a simple math for me. If it's 3.2 million rupees, just keep in mind that the Ministry of Estate Infrastructure as a whole gets a complete budget of 4 billion rupees. 3 to 4 billion rupees, which is not enough at all. 4 billion rupees. Out of 4 billion rupees, 500 million rupees is given for housing. 100 million is given for livelihood. Now with this, how am I supposed to transform 10 districts over 203,000 hectares over a population of 1 million people? So this is my argument being within the government, because I've always mentioned that there is a Ministry of Health, there is a Ministry of Education, there is a Ministry for Transport, for highways. All these ministries should invest capital in the plantation. It is not only the job of the Ministry of Estate Infrastructure to do this. So this is why we've always reiterated our stand on the matter that, and that's why we're grateful to President Ranil Wickremesinghe for creating a committee on reintegration of the upcountry community. So in that reintegration committee, right now we are passing the first recommendation, which is the rights to ownership of land. Under this Saumya Bhumi title, we would be providing land to nearly 176,000 families. And this land will be provided at 10 purchase each. Now, all of you may have a question that, but if you are providing this land, companies, won't they make an issue? I would like to remind all my friends from the media that the President had also mentioned on May Day that he is going to gazette the living area of the plantation workers as settlements. The biggest issue we have right now, why we can't even build a toilet in upcountry, is because companies refuse to give approval. It is not because that we don't want to build. We have the money. And when we try to build, the companies flat out refuse it. Today, you can forget about the government. Today, if you are an estate worker and you're living in a line room, you're not allowed to renovate the line room with your money. You're not allowed to build a toilet for yourself. And all that is because of the fact that people do not have rights to ownership of land, which is why we are expediting this as soon as we can, because we feel if, again, with the calculation I mentioned earlier, 3.2 million for a house, with 500 million rupees, and I have 3.2 million, how many houses can I build every year? You see the problem? It's about 200 at the best. So if I have 200 houses which I can build every year, and I have 176,000 families, how many years do you think it will take me to break all the line rooms and build the houses? Which is why I'm saying there needs to be practicality. People need to be given the land they've been living in for 200 years, so they have an opportunity to build. And that the government will support. We are not just saying this for a political discussion where we are saying, take the land. What we are suggesting is, we will give the land under 4 categories, sorry. Number one, for the 66,000 houses that have already been built, they don't have deeds. So that is going to be category A. Category B is going to be families which, again, we have to go through the verification process and a strict vetting process. And with category B, it will be people who are capable of building their own houses if land is given to them. Right? Today, many people may think, no, estate sector, they're still in poverty, but many people should understand the estate workers are in poverty, but their children are well educated and they're studying abroad. And they're working abroad. They are, some of them, I'm not saying all of them, but some of them. So they would be capable of building their own toilets or renovating their own house. They don't need to be spoon-fed. Then category C, people who require assistance. And assistance will come in the form of what the NHDA is doing. This 50% government will give us a loan, and the remaining 50% would be borne by 50% will be given as a grant, and another 50% will be given as a loan, where the community will be, the beneficiary of that house will be paying for it. And finally, category D. Category D is going to be the poverty, under the poverty level households, where they cannot build their own house, even with assistance. So that is who the Indian housing should go to, and all the other grant houses should go to. People who actually cannot build a house for themselves. So just to add on to the last point, see, all of you must also understand the fact that 28,000 houses, have been built or are being built in the north and east through the Indian government. But in the past 10 years, we have struggled to complete 4,000 houses in upcountry. And the reason is because these people do not have rights to ownership of land. When the north and east, the housing, the building of houses is not an issue, because most of the houses are built in their own lands. But in upcountry, we have to speak to the RPCs, we have to go through so many hoops. So That is why I'm saying I think these things need to be brought to light, and which is why we will require support.
For more latest news, subscribe to FTTV.